What is going on, everybody? Pete Simonetti here for NYY News. As you guys could probably tell from my Halloween Michael Myers t-shirt on the Designated Spittaz podcast, and of course this beautiful Friday the 13th mug, I am quite the horror fan, and I love Halloween. Actually have a Halloween party coming up on Saturday, a costume party. Big into Halloween. What does that have to do with the Yankees, as you might ask? Well, the Yankees have a horror story for themselves, and that horror story is Gary Sanchez. Is a bit of a horror story. Now, this video, before you even clicked it and saw what it was about, you knew by the title. The Yankees cannot bring Gary Sanchez back. That is my belief. I will stick with that, and I do believe there's a real possibility that if the Yankees are going to pretend at least to be a serious team, Gary Sanchez cannot come back. Now, why, you might ask? Well, the big glaring reason why is that your 300 and something, whatever the number is, $1 million ace does not want to pitch to him. Towards the end of the year, Corey Kluber also did not want to pitch to him. I even think Montgomery started getting more starts with Higashioka. I might be wrong on that one, but we know that he is not the guy that everyone expected him to become, right? And unfair as it may sound, Gary Sanchez has not lived up to the hype that, he came up to. And some of it is his fault, some of it also is not. Because he came up so hot, it was never going to be possible to continue on to be who he was. Now, do I think the Yankees have held on to Gary Sanchez for too long? Yeah, I do. I think they had a real shot at JT Realmuto. I think he should have been the option. If you look at myself and Felix's videos from way back, multiple years ago, we were arguably, or maybe not even arguably, the only ones saying that the Yankees need to distance themselves from Gary Sanchez. And if Realmuto was available, I would have done that deal. I would have switched them out right there. Gary has more control, obviously. It would have been a perfect trade at the time. Yankees would have had a catcher for the future, multiple more years ahead of them, who is one of the best in the game, if not the best in the game. So it's something where the Yankees have held on to a problem, hoping that it no longer becomes a problem. And I think last year we kind of hit rock bottom, truly. Especially on the defense side, because yes, if you break Gary Sanchez down, he's good enough offensively, right? There, you don't look at Gary Sanchez go for a catcher. Keywords, for a catcher. You don't look at Gary and go, this guy is dog shit. You don't say that, because at the end of the day, if your catcher bats in the low 200s and could hit 20 plus homers, most people are fine. As long as they're good defensively too. That's a super plus, or at least average. Gary Sanchez, in my opinion, by just the eye test, has sunken so low defensively that right now there's almost no point. Let alone, your ace not wanting to pitch to him, and probably most of your staff not wanting to pitch to him. I was the only one, if you guys remember, breaking the news about Gary Sanchez's laziness and coming in out of shape, and how upset leadership was, how upset Joe Girardi and team was when he came into spring training out of shape. I was the only one, and man, did I get attacked for it, until other people came out and said the same thing and confirmed it months later. I believe there was former Yankee coaches. Alex Rodriguez said it, came out and said it, that he was told by multiple people too, and obviously he has a word in the organization. So with all that being said, the glaring point here is, well, what do you do with him? Do you non-tender Gary Sanchez and just let somebody else handle his contract and, see you later? It's going to be arbitration. They're saying about $7.5 million. I don't think you want to pay that for Gary, especially when the Yankees could potentially have many ways to save some money and maybe cut some salary to add for some bigger names guys that are out there. And we'll talk about those things in the future. But there's a lot of different things the Yankees can do with construction of their roster, letting some guys go, let other teams deal with that salary, or again, of course, trade some guys. But we're focusing right now on Gary Sanchez and what that could look like. For the New York Yankees, I think defense is going to be more valuable than anything after what we've seen from Gary this year in 2021, where we've seen him towards the end of the year make, I still say, the worst catcher play I've ever seen in my life. Had a guy out by about 20 feet, moved off the plate and allowed him to score. I mean, I don't think there's ever been anything like that ever done in Major League Baseball, to the point of the pop-up, the passed balls, the horrible framing, one of the worst in the league. The pop-up that he never even made contact with, just horrendously bad, really, just really, really bad. And I think it's also good for Gary Sanchez if he has a change of scenery. Where that change of scenery is, I could care less, to keep it real with you. I don't care. I do think, National League's going to likely have DHs next year too. Could also help Gary Sanchez's cause. But I don't think there's a spot for him on the Yankees. If the Yankees bring Gary Sanchez back, in my humbled opinion, that again just goes to show me that this team has no real mindset of what the problems are. And again, Gary Sanchez could maybe go on to another club and become an all-star. I don't think that is impossible. I really don't. I just think Gary Sanchez's time with New York is past overdue. It's done. It's been there. It's been done. The Yankees have held on for as long as they can. To me, the time has been up on Gary Sanchez, and I'm on record for that. So you could go through my history and see how much I've called for that, just hearing what I heard about him. And the funny thing is, I'd recently come across a Gary Sanchez scouting report when he got called up to the Yankees for the first time. And in that scouting report, it questions his work ethic and his ability to stay at catcher if he even wants it. Basically saying the talent's there, but is the mind there? Is his brain actually there to want to be this great star, to want to be good defensively? It basically sums it all up in that scouting report. And it's funny to look back on that now, because you see that and you go, well, they were on him then. They knew what the issues were then. The only time Gary really had his head on the shoulders is when he had Tony Pena and Joe Girardi. And, not to harp on Aaron Boone, but we hear the Yankees need somebody behind Boone that's like an enforcer, because Boone's not doing that. And that's the worst case scenario for a guy like Gary Sanchez. A guy like Gary Sanchez, you can't let him off the hook. And obviously that's been happening the last couple of years when it comes to base running errors for Gary. And, of course, the defense, which I already touched on. But looking forward, the thing that a lot of fans obviously want to talk about is, well, Pete, who the hell replaces him? There's not a level of catchers out there that are so talented where you're like, oh, that's a obvious one, right? Well, I got 3 names, and the 3 names, names you guys already heard of. There's even more out there, but I'm making this video pretty quickly. And again, like I told you guys, I am not big into doing all the research in the world. I'm actually very much the type to come out here, know what topic I want to talk about, and freestyle it for you guys and keep everything up here. This is where everything exists for NYY News, Pizza Minetti, right here, all up here. I just come and I spit for you guys. Going over that, though, before I go into that, let's look a little bit into what the Yankees have in their minor league system. Austin Wells is the first name that pops up, right? Just because he's one of their top prospects. He could hit for like crazy. The guy could hit. He's a professional hitter. Defense is horribly behind. And there's rumors that there's a potential that he could potentially move the first base at some point. I like that. Move the first base. But they'll stick with him at catcher for a while to hope that something clicks and he gets better. He's worse than Gary Sanchez defensively right now. He's well below average. The bat is really where it needs to be right now, and he's closing in on being able to be a regular major league hitter. It's just, could he be a catcher? Or is he going to have to move to third base? Maybe he moves to the outfield somewhere. Not third base, first base, or maybe the outfield somewhere. So that's going to be interesting. Josh Bro is a guy who really came on this year, hits for a lot of power, average to slightly below average defensively, but could really hit. He has a lot of power, this kid. This kid's a good overall ball player. Could definitely see him up with New York at some point. More likely as a backup, unless he really gets his defense a little under him more. Becomes maybe above average to a little bit of slightly above average. But the bat is definitely there. He could hit. There's no doubt about it that Josh Bro could hit. The main one in the Yankee system, and I do want to say he is on the Yankees 40-man roster. I believe he is because there's the rumors out there, of course, that he's going to need to be rushed a little bit because he is on that 40-man. Not necessarily rushed, but he's going to have to be, pushed a little more. Let me just double check to make sure I'm right. Maybe he's not. Let's see. Antonio Gomez is who I'm talking about. No, he is not. Antonio Gomez is not on the 40-man yet. I think he actually has to be put on it at some point. There's something there with all that he'll be moved through the system a little faster. But this is the best catcher they have. This is arguably, I think, going to be, in the next year or so, maybe the top catching prospect in all of baseball. And that's a lot to say because there's a lot of good catching prospects out there. But I really believe Antonio Gomez is the real deal. Kid got everything. Kid could hit. He could really field. I think I talked about this on the Designated Spittaz podcast. He has a 1.88 seconds transition from catching to throwing to second base, which if you measure that against everybody, it is the best in Major League Baseball at that level. He would have been the best at that level. So this kid has it all. It's just putting it all together now, getting the reps under him, and then he'll be a catcher. This is a starting catcher. This kid's potential is all-star starting catcher. He is that good. Antonio Gomez, remember the name. He is the future of Yankee catching, unless they somehow come across trading for a legitimate top catching prospect. Sal Perez maybe or something like that, but I think that's very doubtful. But the names I want to talk about today, let's go through that, and then we'll wrap this video up. Tucker Barnhart with the Reds is a name a lot of people bring up. Now, he has an option, so he may not be available. If he is, decent. This isn't a pretty cute one. I don't mind this one too much. Tucker Barnhart is a decent hitter. Makes contact, which is actually, no, he really doesn't. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I was thinking of the wrong guy. The other guy after this, it makes a little more contact, but they still strike out a little bit. Struck out 100 times in 348 at-bats, so that's up there. But, Tucker's very, very good defensively, and that's the thing the Yankees need to look for. They got a lot of young pitchers coming up too. You need a good catcher. You need a good defensive catcher. But, again, he has the option. Let me see if I can figure out what that is. I think it's like $7.5 million. It is $7.5 million team option, $500K buyout. So, what do the Reds do? The Reds have one of the best catching prospects in baseball too. I think his last name is Stevenson. I want to say Stevenson. I think that's correct. But they have some catching. They have catching behind him. So if they want to go in that direction, they could, or they could stick with him and bring the young guy up slowly. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there with Barnhart, but he's an available option when it comes to free agency. There's probably a couple of other names that they're in free agency, but I also focused after this on two trades. One is a name you guys have heard me say a lot, and I really like this guy. That is Jacob Stallings with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Jacob Stallings is coming off of his best season for the Pirates, where he hit 246 and 374 at-bats, 8 homers, also a career high, 53 RBIs, a career high. OPS 704, on-base percentage 335. His WAR was 3. So a lot of good there, very good defensively, also very good framer, but a guy who can really hold you over for multiple years until Austin Wells or an Antonio Gomez is available. And again, he's always been pretty good, pretty above average as a fielder. I just also want to take a look at if we could find maybe something with his contract. I don't think he's not a free agent anytime soon. I know he has multiple years of control left. Let me go back and look this up real quick for you guys. So he is going to be, let's see if this tells me. I don't get anything from that. That's not the good one here. Sports, try this one. This site's usually good for all this information. But I just want to get that out there so we have an idea of how long he would be here. Why can't I find Jacob Stallings? All right, let's do this. Jacob Stallings. Okay, there we go. So he will be a free agent in 2025. So you would have multiple years of control for Jacob Stallings. So that could be something where the Yankees, see a catcher that's defensive. He's right-handed, so I know they want to go lefties, but you could figure that out elsewhere. You don't got to worry about that really with catching because you're not looking for a big-time hitter here. You're looking for somebody that could play defense, and Jacob Stallings could do that as a catcher. So very nice name in my opinion. I think he's only getting better too. And, of course, Henry Davis was drafted by the Pirates, and he's not going to be too far away. So they'll know who their catcher is in the future when that team has a ton of young guys coming up. The other trade candidate who I don't believe necessarily is going to be available, but that I think every fan will love, is Carson Kelly on the Diamondbacks. Carson Kelly really has it all, and he's a guy that can hit. He's a guy that can field. He's young. He's only 26. I think he's going to turn 27 for 2022. But last year, career high, not a career high, I'm sorry, 304 at-bats only, 13 home runs, 74 strikeouts, batted .240, on-base percentage .343, slugging .411, 2.2 WAR. Again, this is a guy, OPS .754. Here's a guy who really can do everything. He can field. He can really do it all. Just a really good ball player overall. And I believe he is also under contract for quite some time, per my understanding. Let's take a look and see for Carson Kelly also. All right, let's look here. Carson Kelly. Let's take a look. Carson Kelly will not be a free agent again also until 2025. Base salary right now at about $3 million. He'll take a good chunk of prospects to get, but man, if Arizona is willing to deal a guy like him, you go for it. You truly go for it. He's had his injury concerns, of course, but that's a position where you can really manage well. The Yankees have guys that could be backup catchers, whether the name's Kyle Higashioka or not. I talked about a few of them. Josh Bro, Donnie Sands. They got a few guys in their system who could be catchers right now. But the gist of this video is the Yankees cannot, if they are looking to take the next step, if they are a serious team, which I still question if they are, Gary Sanchez cannot be the Yankees catcher come 2022. I am Pete Simonetti for NYY News. Guys, like, share, subscribe. You know the deal. We are doing tremendous with subscriptions. Thank you guys so much. Let's keep building towards 6,000 come January when all the newness drops that you guys are going to absolutely love. So in the comment section below, let me know. Gary Sanchez can't come back, can he? It's got to be crazy. Can't do it. You guys are the best. Again, for Pete Simonetti and NYY News. Talk to you guys soon. Thank you.